What is the evolution of this science? Like, hand analysis is one of the best ways to actually discover your path. We're also going to be doing a healing process. Hello, spiritual friends, and welcome to another episode of Life Ascended. I am your host, Cynthia Clark, and I am going to be doing an episode today that is my favorite topic, which is palmistry. So for those of you who don't know me very well, I have been studying hand analysis for the last 17 years. I've worked with over 8,000 people, and I have studied the hands in incredible detail and depth. I actually started out, believe it or not, I had a deja vu experience where I picked up my very first book on palm reading, and I just knew that I had studied it before. It was very profound that day that I was at the library. And the message that I got was, you need to study this again. So I knew that I was in a transition period in my life, and I decided to listen to that intuitive voice and follow the breadcrumbs, which turned out to be, by now I've read probably over 90 books on palm reading, and I've trained with various masters around the world. So I've definitely been in the realm of hand analysis for a long time now. And I want to share some of the traditional stuff with you, but I also want to share with you where is palm reading actually going, and what is the evolution of this science, because it is a science and it needs to be elevated back to its rightful place in the scientific community. And that is something that I am here to share with you, because it's such a practical tool. We're going to talk about all the amazing things you can learn from your hands, and why do you need to learn them. So I feel like hand analysis is one of the best ways to actually discover your path. You can think of your hands like mirrors to your soul, to your personality, to everything about you. But in this episode, I'm going to take you through some things that maybe you didn't know about palmistry, and maybe you did. But I hope to teach you some new things. And we're also going to be doing a healing process in this episode to assist you with change, because we're definitely in the time of change right now. We are in the time of ascension. I mean, that's the whole purpose of this podcast, is so that you can discover your divine potential every day, because we're moving into a higher state of existence. So one thing that I want you to know is that palmistry has been around for at least 4,000 years. It started in India or China. We're not really sure, but it's a very ancient practice. And I want you just to think about that for a second. It's like, why would something be around for that long if it wasn't useful, right? If it wasn't valid? The third book ever printed off the Gutenberg press was a palmistry book. Palmistry used to be taught in universities in the 1400s. It was well known that Aristotle studied palmistry, and he actually taught it to Alexander the Great. Palmistry has a really rich history to it. So these are just some of the things that I want you to think about. So why is it that nobody talks about it? Or why is it that people are not taking it seriously? And this is where I get frustrated, right? Is the perpetuation of bad news, right? Or just news that's been debunked a long time ago. Or, if you're not somebody who actually studies the hands in as much depth and detail as I have, for example, Then maybe you read one book on palmistry and you think, oh, this is all there is, or this is what's right. I would encourage you to, you know, keep exploring, right? It's like it's an evolution. And this is really where palmistry is going. It's not static, it's not stagnant. It is an ever growing evolution. And the information that we're receiving now for me, it's really mind blowing. And I hope you're going to be, I hope to blow your mind in this episode because it really is, it's come a long way. So as far as the science goes, we have learned, we've correlated a lot of things, and it's through, you know, analyzing and studying the patterns, right? So there's actually three branches of palmistry, not just one. A lot of people think of just the lines as showing us what is our future, what is when am I going to die, right? Maybe you thought that is what's in your hands. Well, they actually did a study on the lifeline back in the 1970s, early 70s. They found that the lifeline didn't correspond to the person's time of death. And they actually looked at several cadavers' hands to try and see if there was a correlation between the length of the lifeline and the person's death. And it turned out that it was not, it didn't correspond. Okay, now does that mean that we just throw everything out and say, oh, well, then that lifeline doesn't really tell us anything? Okay, now that would be ridiculous because, of course, it's telling us something. I mean, it's on every single person's hand and it is highly significant. Your lifeline, by the way, if you don't know where it is, it just wraps around your thumb ball and it should be the strongest line in your hand. So, the lifeline, what it does tell you is it tells you about your vitality and your stability. So, if you have a weak lifeline, that is significant. If you have a break in your lifeline, that is significant. You can think of your lines like rivers of energy. They're going to ebb and flow based upon your free will choices. So, if you are an unhealthy person, maybe you have some unhealthy habits that need to change, your lifeline might be weak because it is telling you, I need to be strengthened. I need you to make different choices in your life. If you have a break in your lifeline, it's like, well, that's going to show a definite disruption in the energy flow. How is it breaking? Where is it breaking? Is going to tell us a little bit more. So if you become like a detective, that's what I want you to do. Become a detective of your hands. And that's going to help you uncover some details. So when we look at a line, we look at the quality of the line. Is it clear? Can I see it? Where is it going? What is it doing? Is it short, right? So if the lifeline is short, that doesn't mean you're going to die early. It means that you're not grounded because this line represents your stability. So if you're not stable, you might have a short lifeline. Now, can this change? Absolutely. Your lines can and do change. And I've tracked people now in those 17 years, including my very own hands, and I have learned that you can see the changes and track the changes. So the other branch of palmistry we call chirognomy. This is based on your hand shape. Okay, so you have a relative length of your fingers versus your palm. That is going to show you your subconscious personality archetype. Now, I wrote a whole book on this, okay, called Stories in Your Hands. So if you're interested in learning, there are 22 archetypes that show up in your hands. We have 16 primary archetypes, and they are based on the four elements. So you can be fire, earth, air, or water. That's going to be your primary hand shape. And then you're going to have what we call a strong finger, which is we have Jupiter, Saturn, Apollo, and Mercury. So the four fingers, and the thumb is a whole separate thing. We're going to talk about that later. but you can have a strength in a finger combined with your element. That is your archetype. And our archetype and our hand shape forms by the time we're about 5 or 6 years old. So you can think about being that little baby and coming into the world, and you are just absorbing everything, right? You're putting stuff in your mouth. You have little chubby fingers. You have, big wide palms. You have earthy hands because you need to be in that physical realm when you're born. You need to get used to your body, get used to your environment, and you're absorbing everything. So as you start to develop your personality, your hand will start to take its shape. It will change over a little bit of time. And by the time you reach about 6 years old, it will be pretty much be set by then. So we look at the hand shape as your archetypal influence. Where are you in the journey of the hero's journey, right? We have a pathway that is going to be our primary pathway. And we're going to have influences that are coming from our subconscious and it will affect our personality. That is going to be in your hand shape. So, for example, my hand is a fire hand. I've got short fingers, I've got a long palm, and I've got a dominant index finger or Jupiter finger. What this means is that I am a chariot archetype. And what do chariots do? We like to go. We like to charge ahead. We like to be in motion. This is why I am so passionate about doing the things that I do. I can't imagine not doing them. I'm very passionate about hands. I'm very passionate about ascension. I'm passionate about helping people to recognize some of these lesser known truths about themselves. And so I really hope this episode opens up your mind to what is possible. Okay, so another thing that you should know is that your fingerprints have a significance. They are the roadmap to your soul. And we know this because your fingerprints form 5 months before you're born and they never change. I read for a guy who actually fell into a bonfire. He burned all of his fingers and they were severely burned. I looked at the picture of his hands while he was in the hospital. I actually read for him years later, but he showed me the picture. And what I saw was that I could still read his fingerprints, even though they were so severely burned. All of his fingers were burned. And I mean, it's a tragic story, right? But the good news is his fingers recovered and the skin grew back and everything else. But you can't change those fingerprints. So what does that mean? That is your soul imprint. It's the wave energy DNA imprint of your soul. So you came in with a plan, with a purpose, with a reason for being here. So we look at the fingerprints now as your life purpose, life lesson, life school, your soul gifts, soul agenda, right? Your soul had contracts that you agreed on as you came into this world. So when we look at those fingerprints, they are all of those things. Now, they also correspond to patterns, right? So we look at, there's 4 basic patterns in fingerprints, and I would say about 10 subtypes. And so when you look at that, you look at the map, right? It's a set of 10 fingerprints is going to be, what is your map indicating? And it also corresponds to the elements. So we can read elements in a lot of different places in the hands, but I do consider the fingerprints to be those soul contracts. What are you here to learn? What is your major themes of your life, right? And the lines representing the free will, the hand shape representing the personality, and the archetypal influence. Okay, so those are the 3 branches of palmistry. Now, some of the other myths that are out there. How many children can you see in the hands? Okay, the answer is that is not in your hands. Okay, I have not found that information to be reliable. I have tested it on a lot of people, and it simply isn't there. Okay, so if you've heard that or if you think that's accurate, then you are mistaken. Another myth that is often seen in the hands is the M. Okay, this one drives me crazy because this is simply the major lines, okay? People who don't know what they're talking about trying to interpret the M in the hands. Okay, this is total garbage. Okay, let's actually talk about the M. Okay, and for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, if you look at your hand and you look at the three major lines, okay, so we've talked about the lifeline. Okay, that's the one that wraps around your thumb ball. We haven't yet talked about, but you have a headline that goes across the middle part of your hand. And then you have a heart line that is in the upper portion of your hand. It starts underneath your little finger and it heads over towards either your middle finger or your index finger. Okay, that's your heart line. So your lifeline is vitality and stability. Your headline is how you think and how much you think. And your heart line is your emotional flow, your how you express your feelings or you don't express your feelings. That's going to be in your heart line. Okay, so some people have tried to interpret this as an M, which to me, that's just ridiculous. Because what we're looking at is what do the lines represent and where are they located? Okay, hands are like real estate. Okay, it's all about location, location, location. You want to look at where is the line starting? Where is it ending? What is it doing along the way? Is it breaking? These are the things that you want to look at. And this is also why I recommend going to a professional hand analyst expert such as myself to actually get the answers that you're looking for in your hands because this is something that is so important, right? So if you just read a book or if you just ask somebody randomly, just take that with a little grain of salt. It might not be accurate or realistic. So I cannot tell you how many stories I have had of people coming to me and saying, I had a reader tell me that I was going to die when I was 37 years old. And so then they were terrified of getting their hands read after that. And it just makes me incredibly sad to hear that because your hands are such a tool of empowerment. Your hands can guide you and direct you in your life. It can lead you to your unlocking your best life. It can lead you to guiding you to your ascension. It is so critical to know what your hands are telling you. But to listen to something like that and to be told that, you only have so many years to live or, oh, you're going to get sick here. And, all that stuff just drives me crazy because it is not accurate. The lines change. You can change your free will. You can change your destiny. You have the power to direct your life. And so I don't want you to think of hand analysis as being yes, the fingerprints are set, but how your soul plays out those fingerprints there's an infinite number of ways it can play out. So never think that you don't have potential to change your destiny or to change your life just because of something negative that's in your hands. Okay, so for example, if you have a block or a lesson or whatever, that isn't there to punish you or to beat you up or to disempower you. It's there to actually guide you. Oh, this is what I'm learning in this lifetime, or this is what I'm learning right now, or this is something I'm working on. It's an evolution. We are all evolving. We're all growing. We're all ascending, right? That's the whole point. So instead, what I want you to do is to think of that as an opportunity for growth, to think of it as an opportunity to ascend, and you can use that information to actually grow. So definitely, I would never tell somebody ever when they're going to die. I find that extremely unethical and irresponsible. And you want to always, especially as a reader, you want to be responsible. You want to be empowering somebody. That's the whole point of this. So this is what I would do if you were my client. I would take your hands, we would take a good look at them, we would look at all these things, but it's not used to disempower you. We have the free will choices to do what we want in our life. And so this is definitely something that palmistry is a tool. Palmistry is a guide. Palmistry is a way to uncover the mirror of your soul. Who are you? What are you doing? Why are you doing it? That's going to show up in your hands. Okay. So you can just think of your hands as a mirror. Okay. That's what it is. What is the mirror reflecting back to me what I believe to be true about my life? What are my subconscious influences? What are my soul influences? And how can I use that roadmap to actually live my best life? Okay, that is what the hands are all about. Okay, so hopefully you are understanding a little bit more about this beautiful science, because it is so amazing and so empowering. And I'm so passionate about it. So I want to talk a little bit about some of the new information that's been coming to me. So in terms of the evolution of palmistry, studying a lot of books is great. Studying experts' opinions about things is great. And I highly recommend, finding a teacher that you connect with. But there's more than that too. There's a spiritual journey that we're all on. Once I moved to Sedona, I started getting messages from the higher dimensional realms in a very much more intense way than I had before. So I started getting these messages. They were coming in, coming in, coming in. And I started to receive messages about palmistry from the higher dimensional realms. And these were things that I had never heard of before. I had never read them in any book. And it was really interesting to kind of see the evolution of my own understanding of palmistry, and now where I'm at with understanding. So one of the biggest revelations that I have found from just all of my channelings is that we have portals located in our hands. Each fingerprint is a portal to your multidimensionality, and it's a way to access your genetics. Okay, so there's a branch of science called epigenetics. It's definitely about whether your genes are activated or not. So, they look at people, for example, who get cancer or get a specific illness, and they used to think that it was like, well, I'm getting this illness because my grandfather had it, or my grandmother, or my great grandmother, or whatever it is. And so therefore I'm going to get it. Okay. We have found that this is not necessarily true, and it doesn't have to be your fate. You can rise above your genetic makeup. You can rise above your ancestral lineage, and you can actually tap into the higher dimensions and the greater field. And this is the science of epigenetics. So being able to rise above your own genes and to actually co-create your life and do it in a way that's healthy and happy and joyful and fulfilled. And so I firmly believe that we have that ability, and we can also do it through the portals in our very own hands. So this is, to me, so amazing. My spirit guides and my galactic guides, my angelic guides, they call this dermatoglyphic epigenetics. So the term dermatoglyphic, meaning derma meaning skin, glyphic meaning carvings, and then, of course, rising above our genes, that is the pathway of healing and really moving into what is your most authentic life, what is your most authentic way of expressing your uniqueness. We want to tap into that. So this is what I'm talking about as far as beyond palmistry, ascended palmistry, if you want to call it that. It's super exciting. So, and we're going to do a little exercise today too. So I hope you're excited. But I want to talk a little bit about some of the markers that you might have in your hands, indicating that you're on your spiritual journey or that you're aware of your spiritual journey. So if you have a Mercury line, okay, so the Mercury line is going to come from your little finger, and it's sort of a diagonal line that comes down the hand. If that line is clear, like it is on my hand, it's super, super clear, then that represents listening to your inner voice, listening to that that higher self. Okay, so if that line is clear, that means you're clearly hearing your higher self. You're clearly communicating, and you're also seeking to listen. Okay, now if this line is weak, it's a line, it's a minor line, which means it's not on everyone's hand, and it certainly isn't clear on everyone's hand, then maybe that's something you could work to improve. Okay, how do I start listening to my higher self? Well, you have to start asking questions, right? And this was another thing that came up the other day. I did a bunch of readings for just the general public. And I like to always start out with, do you have any questions? Do you have any questions about your hands? And it was interesting to see that nobody had a question. And I thought, wow, how can that be that nobody even has a question? I find that mind blowing because it's like, wow, I got like a million questions, So start questioning, start asking yourself, what does this line mean? Take a look at your own hands. What is the quality of those lines? Look at your fingers. What is the quality of these fingers? Is a finger bending? Well, that means it's weakening or it's being stressed. Look at those fingerprints. Well, what is the fingerprint pattern? What does it look like? What finger is it on? If you cut yourself, that has significance. How is it cutting? Where is the cut? It's all about location, right? So you want to ask those questions. It's not just going to be, definitely be wary of those palm reading tutorials where they give you like 20 answers to one little line. It means all these things. It's like, nah, probably not. Okay, so just have a little skepticism, right? But you can learn all these things. I mean, that's part of what I teach people is I love to share what your hands actually have to tell you and how to empower yourself. So another marker, we call this, the realm of Luna. Okay, so Luna is your deep subconscious. It is the opposite of your thumb, and it's at the bottom part of your hand. Luna is your realm of your subconscious, and it's where dreams and imagination dwell. It's also the realm of your ancestors and your past lives. Okay, so yes, there is a lot in that region, but if you have a star located in that section, okay, so it'll look like three lines that kind of intersect. So it looks like a little asterisk. That would be a star of Luna. That would be an indication of you have a strong intuition. You get a spark of intuition. You're listening to that deeper, insight. You could also have a fingerprint pattern in this section of your hand that is somewhat rare called a Luna whorl. And so it would be like a circular fingerprint pattern in this section of the hand. We often see that on people who become professional intuitives or psychics, or just spiritual advisors. They often will have that marker in their hands. So if you have that, then you're probably naturally inclined to listening to your intuition. Okay, so another area to look would be your Jupiter finger, your index finger, and asking yourself, okay, is there anything going on in my upper phalange of this finger? This is called your zone of ideals, and it's going to show the insights that might be coming in. So if you have vertical lines or kind of diagonal lines coming through here, that is definitely showing information is coming in to your higher self. Okay. So that's another good place to look. You might have spirit lines as well, which are going to be located underneath Jupiter. So in the mount of Jupiter, and you might have these little lines coming off of the finger. Those represent your spirit guides and your your spiritual messengers that want to communicate with you. Okay, so those are just some things that you can check for. I would also encourage you to look at both hands. Okay, so maybe your passive hand has something and your active hand doesn't. You know, your passive hand is going to be the hand that you do not write with. That's going to be more of your internal self, your potential self, your, more of that inaccessible part of yourself. Whereas your active hand is going to be more of your outer self, your public self, your conscious self, and it's going to be more readily available. So, for example, if you have that star of Luna and it's only on your passive hand, but it's not on your active hand, that means it's a potential for you. It's not always accessible. Maybe it's something you could develop more, and then it would show up on your active hand as well. And so these are just some of the variations. And that's why, again, why hands are so amazing and so complex. So keep that in mind. All right. So I also want to just talk a little bit about these portals because this is really what palm portal healing is, the new type of healing that I am doing now that relate to these fingerprint portals. Okay. So I got a message the other day and it was coming in saying that we need to connect our portals of willpower, collective willpower, and change. Okay, so 3 portals we're going to connect to your heart mind, higher mind, and we want to ease that path of change. For change is a necessary part of the process. It's one of the 7 aspects of ascension. We are going through major changes right now planetarily, so everybody needs to connect their heart mind and their higher mind together. So let's go through this together so that you can actually see how this dermatoglyphic epigenetics actually works and how fun it is too. I hope you really enjoy this part of my podcast. So first of all, back to the thumbs. Okay, so the thumb is your willpower. Okay, now regardless of whether you're right-handed or left-handed, we look at the portals in very specific ways because these come in before you have a dominant hand, right? So forming 5 months before you're born. Okay, so the right thumb is going to show us your portal of willpower. Okay, so how do you direct your will? This is actually one of the most important things that you can do in your lifetime. This is how you create your life, is you work with your thumb. Your right thumb is your portal of willpower. Okay, so we're going to connect this thumb to our left thumb, which is the portal of collective willpower. Okay, so what I want you to do is just bring these 2 thumbs together. Okay, so this is literally how we're bringing our portals together. Okay, then bring it up to your heart. Okay, so just bring your 2 thumbs up to your heart. Okay, take a deep breath. I connect my portal of willpower with the portal of collective willpower to activate change in my life. Higher mind, I now welcome and invite you to connect to my heart mind, to be synced and harmonized so that all my decisions from this moment, forward and backward, in all timelines and all dimensions, are made with love, fully attuned with the cosmic heart, so that I may more fully experience higher states of love and bliss while in this body and this lifetime. I recognize and honor the wisdom of my heart to express as love with love as an enlightened being of the divine. May all pain and suffering be transmuted to wisdom in recognition of the lessons that were chosen to be learned, in full knowingness that these were not to punish me, but to help me realize that love is the answer and the way through my life. Thank you, and so it is. And just go ahead and breathe that right into your heart through these portals. And you might feel something in your thumbs as you do this. I always start to feel like a pulsating energy, but go ahead and just breathe that in. Exhale. And when you're ready, you can just release that. Pretty amazing, right? Okay, so that's an example of a mudra where we're bringing portals together. This is also why we do different finger positions. This ancient study also is, it's a way to connect the portals together. So part of dermatoglyphic epigenetics and palm portal healing is to actively work with the portals to bring about change within your own system so that you see it reflected in your reality and you can grow and ascend in your pathway. So I hope that was fun. I hope you enjoyed that. And I would love to hear your questions and comments from this episode. Please let me know. If you have any of those journey markers or what you're noticing about your hands, I would love to hear about that. And just know that my Diamond Path program is actually how I help people to uncover the secrets of their hands, unlocking them to living their best life. I mean, that's what it's all about. And it's incredibly rewarding to finally have that inner knowing, which you trust me, I won't tell you anything that you will be, I mean, maybe you'll be surprised about some of it, but you'll know and recognize the truth of what it is, because that's divine truth is always going to be there. So, hand analysis is a beautiful science that is here to help you. And so please go to ascension17.com to get started and to learn more about this amazing, beautiful science. And I can't wait to take a look at your own hands and see what we can co-create together, and let's ascend together. So have a beautiful day, and thank you so much for being here. Thanks for joining us on Life Ascended, where you can discover your divine potential every day. Please show your support by tuning in, following, sharing your comments, and inviting others to listen. Take it further by visiting Ascension17.com for deeper spiritual growth, guidance, programs, and products.